When mechanic Olivia Stone stumbled upon an old, abandoned fire station, she thought she'd found the perfect project, a place to set up shop and start fresh. But what she didn't expect was to uncover a hidden underground bunker that the US government had sealed off for decades. As the thick yellow door creaked open and an eerie green glow filled the room, she realized that her new building wasn't just a relic of the past. It was a key to a long-forgotten secret. Before we dive in, let us know where you're watching from. If you're as hooked on unexpected discoveries as we are, hit that subscribe button because tomorrow's episode will leave you questioning everything you thought you knew about hidden histories. Now, let's get started with Olivia's journey into the unknown. Olivia Stone stood outside the old fire station, the sun setting behind her as its orange glow reflected off the cracked windows. The building, once bustling with activity, was now silent, its forgotten history lingering in the air. She had always been drawn to projects that others overlooked, and this fire station, with its peeling paint and weathered bricks, seemed like the perfect place for a fresh start. At 30 years old, Olivia was no stranger to hard work. She had spent the last few years restoring old cars and machinery in her garage, teaching herself the ins and outs of every engine she rebuilt. But her passion for fixing things went beyond just the mechanical. She wanted to restore something bigger, something that could change her life. This fire station was that opportunity. She had saved enough money from her work, and now it was time to take a leap. With her tool belt slung over her shoulder and a sense of determination in her step, Olivia unlocked the heavy iron door, the sound of the rusted hinges protesting as it swung open. Inside, dust danced in the beams of light that filtered through the high, industrial windows. The scent of stale air mixed with the faint, lingering odor of old smoke. The floor was covered in debris, old fire hoses, and forgotten equipment. But Olivia didn't see the mess, she saw the potential. The station was massive, with rooms and hallways leading off in every direction. The main area had a tall ceiling, perfect for the garage space she envisioned. The loft above was wide open, ideal for an office and living quarters. The possibilities were endless, and she felt the excitement build inside her as she wandered deeper into the building. She could already picture it her own auto shop, a space where she could work on her own projects, invite other mechanics in for collaboration, and maybe even start a small community of like-minded people. The fire station could be more than just a building. It could be a place to create something meaningful. Olivia took a deep breath, letting the stillness of the place sink in. She had a lot of work ahead of her, but she was ready. The first step in her journey had been taken. Now, it was time to get to work and make this place her own. But as she walked through the dimly lit hallways, there was something that felt off, something that she couldn't quite place. A cold draft stirred the air, making her shiver for a moment, but she brushed it off. After all, it was an old building. Everything had its quirks. She made her way toward the back, to a small storage room she had noticed earlier. Inside, there were shelves filled with old boxes and forgotten equipment. Olivia began sorting through the mess, eager to clear the space and start fresh. It was there, as she reached for an old fire extinguisher, that she noticed something strange. A metal door, partially concealed behind a pile of dusty crates. Her heart skipped a beat. It was out of place, almost as if it didn't belong here. The door was heavy, with a faded label that read, "Restricted Area, Authorized Personnel Only." A chill ran down Olivia's spine, but her curiosity got the better of her. What could be hidden behind this door? With a grunt, she managed to move the crates, revealing the full length of the door. It was old, but the metal was still solid, almost too solid for a building of this age. Olivia traced her fingers over the rusted handle, her breath catching in her throat. The door didn't look like anything she had expected to find in an old fire station. It felt official, like it had a purpose that was never meant to be revealed. After a moment of hesitation, Olivia took a deep breath and gripped the handle. The door creaked open slowly, revealing a dark staircase that led down into the unknown. Olivia hesitated for a moment at the top of the stairs, the darkness below calling to her like a whisper. The cold air emanating from the depths of the staircase sent a shiver down her spine, but her curiosity pushed her forward. She had come this far, after all. What could a little hidden room in an old fire station possibly hide? With her flashlight in hand, she took the first step down, her boots creaking against the old wood beneath. The stairs were narrow and steep, as though the entire structure had been built for something more secretive than the usual emergency response equipment. As she descended, the light from her flashlight barely cut through the inky darkness, but it illuminated strange markings on the walls, yellowed, faded symbols, and numbers that seemed out of place. When she finally reached the bottom, she found herself in an underground space, unlike anything she could have imagined. The room was vast, much larger than it seemed from above, and it had an industrial, sterile quality to it. The walls were lined with old cabinets, large machines, and sealed barrels marked with strange official labels. Some of the equipment looked like it had been abandoned in a hurry, dust settling thick on the floor and the machines. Olivia took a few steps further into the room, the quiet broken only by the soft hum of something in the distance. The eerie green glow from one of the barrels cast a sickly light on everything around her. It felt like a scene from an old Cold War-era movie, a place built in secrecy, a relic from another time. But why here? Why hidden beneath a fire station? Her flashlight flicked over a few of the machines, some of them whirring faintly to life when she approached, as if the room had been waiting for someone to activate it. Olivia's heart raced as she realized what she was seeing. Not just storage, but something more complex, more high-tech. The technology seemed to be from another era, but it looked like it could still work if only she knew how to use it. As she moved deeper into the space, she noticed a large metal door at the far end of the room. The handle was rusted, but it looked like it might open with a little force. Her mind raced with questions. What was all this? Why had the government chosen this place for something so important? And why had it been left here, hidden away for so many years? Olivia approached the door, her hand brushing against the cold metal. Just as she was about to turn the handle, her flashlight flickered. The beam of light sputtered, casting eerie shadows across the walls before it finally went out entirely. She cursed under her breath, fumbling in her pocket for another set of batteries. While she was distracted, a soft noise, a creaking, a groan echoed through the room. It came from behind her, somewhere near the entrance to the stairs. She spun around, her breath catching in her throat. Her pulse quickened. At first, she saw nothing. The room was still, the faint hum of machinery her only companion. But something felt off. Her instincts told her to leave, to go back upstairs where it was safe. But instead, she felt drawn to the door ahead of her. There was something behind it, something that she needed to understand. Focus, she muttered to herself, her voice quiet in the vast space. After replacing the batteries, Olivia's flashlight blinked back to life. She took another step forward, the creaking of the floorboards beneath her boots echoing in the silence. She gripped the handle of the metal door tightly, bracing herself. The uncertainty of what lay beyond it hung heavy in the air. With a deep breath, Olivia turned the handle and pushed the door open. The door creaked open with an unsettling groan, revealing a narrow hallway lit only by the flickering light from Olivia's flashlight. The air smelled damp and stale, a sharp contrast to the musty scent of the fire station above. Her heart thudded in her chest as she stepped inside, the beam of light, illuminating old crates, metal shelving units, and rusted pipes lining the walls. It looked like the hallway had been left in a hurry, abandoned years ago. As Olivia took a few cautious steps forward, her flashlight picked out strange markings on the floor, faded red lines that appeared to lead down the hallway, creating a kind of pathway. The further she walked, the more the temperature dropped. It was cold down here, much colder than the rest of the building. A shiver ran down her spine as she passed under a rusted vent, the air feeling thick, as if it had been stagnant for far too long. She paused in front of a large, reinforced door halfway down the corridor. The metal was darkened with age, but it still looked strong, too strong for a simple storage closet. Olivia's hand hovered over the handle, but she hesitated. There was something about this room that made her uneasy. Was this where the government had kept their most valuable secrets? Or had it simply been forgotten, like the fire station itself? Taking a steadying breath, Olivia gripped the handle and pulled. The door opened with a sharp, mechanical hiss, as if the room beyond had been sealed for decades. A rush of cold air hit her face, sending a chill through her skin. Inside, the space was vast, far larger than anything Olivia had expected. The walls were lined with rows of sealed storage containers, their metal exteriors worn but still intact. Strange symbols and labels were spray-painted in bold letters across the boxes, warnings, instructions, and codes that meant nothing to her. The air in the room smelled faintly metallic, like iron or copper. In the far corner, a massive, locked vault stood. Its heavy steel door was imposing, with a combination lock that looked as though it had never been touched. There was a low hum coming from the vault, almost like a pulse, as if something inside it was still alive, still operating, waiting. Olivia moved toward the vault, her footsteps echoing in the empty room. She ran her fingers along the cold metal, feeling the strange vibration through her fingertips. What could possibly be inside? Was it some kind of experimental technology? Or worse, a dangerous weapon that had been hidden away for protection? She reached for the dial on the combination lock, hesitant but determined. The lock was complex, unlike anything she had ever seen before. Her mind raced with possibilities. If this was some kind of government project, it might hold the key to answers she didn't even know she was looking for. Before she could try the lock, a low, ominous sound rumbled through the floor, like the building was groaning under the weight of some hidden force. Olivia froze, her pulse quickening. The sound faded just as quickly as it had come, but it left a heavy sense of dread hanging in the air. Something wasn't right. She took a cautious step back, her flashlight sweeping the room. Her eyes darted between the vault and the sealed containers. Whatever this was, it had been hidden for a reason. But the question was why? And who, or what, had kept it locked away all these years? Olivia could feel the weight of the place pressing in on her, the walls seemingly closing in with every passing second. She had stepped into something far bigger than herself, and now there was no turning back. Whatever secrets were, locked in that vault, would change everything. But first, she needed to figure out how to open it. With a deep breath, Olivia steadied herself, determined to uncover the truth that lay behind the door. Olivia took a deep breath, her fingers trembling slightly as they hovered over the combination dial of the vault. The unsettling rumble that had passed through the floor still echoed in her mind, the sound like a warning she couldn't shake. She hesitated for a moment, glancing around the room. The flickering light from her flashlight barely cut through the oppressive darkness, casting long shadows over the strange storage containers and the eerie hum of the vault. With resolve, she turned the dial, her heartbeat thumping louder in her chest. There was something magnetic about this moment, a pull toward something vast, something ancient and long forgotten. The lock clicked open with a deep, resonating sound. The heavy steel door groaned as it swung inward, revealing a dark, narrow passageway beyond. The air inside the vault was thick with dust, untouched by time. But the unmistakable coldness of it seemed to emanate from deeper within. Olivia stepped cautiously into the darkened corridor, her flashlight illuminating the stone walls that flanked either side. This wasn't a typical storage space. The walls were built of thick, reinforced concrete, and the ceiling seemed impossibly high for such a narrow space. The floor, covered in years of grime, looked as though it had never been disturbed. Every step Olivia took echoed through the hallway, the faint hum of the mysterious machinery from before now quieting to a whisper. It was as if the building itself was holding its breath. As she ventured deeper, her flashlight flicked across an old control panel bolted to the wall, wires and buttons long since corroded. A greenish glow emitted from a nearby set of screens flickering, half dead, as though they had been running on some kind of low power for decades. The technology was primitive, yet oddly advanced for its time. It looked like it had been built to last forever, or until it was deliberately shut down. Her eyes caught a door at the far end of the hallway, its surface scarred with years of neglect. The handle was wrapped in thick industrial tape, as if no one had dared to enter in years. Olivia's curiosity overwhelmed her unease, and she moved toward it, feeling the weight of each step. When she pulled the door open, it revealed an enormous chamber that dwarfed the vault itself. The space was vast, with high, arched ceilings that seemed to stretch on forever. A cold draft swept past her as she stepped inside. The room was filled with metal tables, scattered papers, and strange machines covered with thick tarps. It looked like some kind of laboratory or research facility, hidden beneath layers of time and dust. At the center of the room, a massive, cylindrical tank stood, its glass surface cracked and covered in grime. The tank pulsed faintly, as if something within was alive. Olivia's breath caught in her throat. What kind of facility had this been? As she edged closer to the tank, she noticed the walls around her were lined with more storage containers, some sealed, others open, revealing their contents, Barrels of an unknown substance, crates of dusty files, and the occasional piece of advanced machinery, its purpose completely foreign to her. Olivia felt as though she had stumbled into a forgotten chapter of history, a place that had been abandoned, but was still waiting, ready to reveal its secrets. The more she took in, the more questions flooded her mind. What had happened here? Who had worked in this underground bunker, and why had it been sealed off for so many years? She reached out cautiously, her fingers brushing the surface of one of the sealed barrels. It was cold to the touch, and the label had long since faded. But the symbol on it, the same one she had seen earlier on the door, stood out clearly. A circle with a line through the middle, an emblem she couldn't place. Olivia stepped back, her mind racing. She had uncovered something massive, something that wasn't just a relic of the past. This was a key to a hidden history, a secret so well kept that even the building above had no clue of what lay beneath. She turned back to the control panel, looking for a way to activate the machinery or uncover more information. But as she did, something caught her eye. A set of papers, old and yellowed, scattered across one of the tables. Olivia moved quickly, the urgency of her discovery driving her to understand what she had uncovered. The papers were brittle, the ink faded, but they were enough to make out a few key details. The title at the top of the first page stood out in bold letters. Project Eclipse, Energy Storage and Defense. Olivia's pulse quickened. Was this bunker a military facility? Had they been working on some kind of advanced energy weapon, or something else entirely? The implications were staggering. She picked up the rest of the papers, sifting through the yellowing documents. A plan was emerging, but it wasn't clear yet. One thing was certain. She had uncovered something far beyond what she had expected. This wasn't just about a fire station. This was about a secret that had been buried, and it was now in her hands. Olivia's mind raced as she carefully sifted through the stack of papers she had found. Each sheet felt like a clue, a piece of a puzzle she had only just begun to see. The words on the top page, Project Eclipse, kept echoing in her mind. It sounded like a code name for something vast, something hidden. Energy storage, defense. But what kind of defense could be hidden down here in this forgotten underground chamber? She sat down at one of the metal tables, the cold surface biting into her legs as she spread out the papers. Some were blueprints, filled with intricate designs that appeared to be for an energy core, a FIAS, massive power source unlike anything she had ever seen. Others were notes, handwritten in a hurried, messy scrawl. They detailed calculations, experiments, and warnings about the instability of the energy source. A few pages had faded completely, leaving behind only smudges of ink, but enough remained to paint a picture. She skimmed through a few more pages, her eyes widening as she came across a set of notes labeled Final Stage. The text described a device, one that seemed to harness an incredible amount of power that could potentially change the course of history. But as the notes continued, they grew darker, revealing that the project had been abandoned after a catastrophic failure. Containment breach imminent, one note read, subject to immediate shutdown. Olivia's pulse quickened as she processed what she was reading. The project had failed. But what had happened? Was this some kind of energy weapon that had gone awry? Or was it something else, something even more dangerous? A loud bang from the far end of the room startled her, causing her to drop the papers. Her heart leapt in her chest, and she quickly looked up, scanning the darkness. The faint hum of the machinery seemed to grow louder, more erratic, as if the bunker itself was reacting to her discovery. She slowly stood up, her flashlight trembling in her grip. Every instinct told her to leave, to get out before whatever was buried here was awakened. But something deeper urged her to stay. The answers were right in front of her. She had come this far. She had to know the truth. Olivia's eyes flicked back to the tank in the center of the room, the one that had pulsed faintly when she first entered. She couldn't ignore it anymore. She moved toward it, the unsettling noise of the machinery growing louder with each step. The closer she got, the more intense the greenish glow became. It illuminated the tank's surface, revealing strange, glowing veins that pulsed with a rhythm all their own. She reached out, her fingers barely grazing the cracked glass. The tank seemed to hum in response, and for a moment, Olivia thought she saw something moving inside, something not entirely human. Her breath caught in her throat as she backed away quickly, her mind spinning. What was inside the tank? Was it connected to Project Eclipse? Had they been trying to create something? Or someone? The glowing veins seemed too deliberate to be an accident, and the pulsating hum felt too alive. Her mind was awash with questions, each more unsettling than the last. But then, something else caught her eye. Beneath the tank, barely visible from where she stood, was a small metal drawer. It seemed like an afterthought, tucked away beneath the massive structure. Her fingers itched to open it, but she hesitated for a moment, torn between curiosity and fear. Whatever was inside had been hidden for a reason. Olivia took a steadying breath and knelt down. The drawer was stiff, and the sound of it sliding open was louder than she expected, as though the room itself was protesting. Inside, she found a small, leather-bound journal, its cover worn and cracked with age. It was heavier than she anticipated, the pages inside thick and carefully bound. A chill ran down her spine as she picked it up. The journal wasn't like the other papers she had found. This one felt personal. The handwriting inside was clear and precise, and the first page was dated the 15th of October 1967. The title on the page simply read, "The Project's True Purpose." Olivia flipped through the pages, each one detailing the progress of the experiments with chilling precision. The journal's author described in detail the testing of a powerful energy source, one that could potentially provide an endless supply of clean energy, but at a steep cost. According to the notes, the energy was linked to a series of biological experiments. The project was meant to create something capable of surviving extreme conditions, something to be used in the event of a global catastrophe. But the experiments hadn't gone as planned. The final entry was written in a frantic, almost desperate tone. "We've gone too far. The containment is failing. The energy source is alive more than just a machine. It has a consciousness. We must shut it down, or it will be our undoing." Olivia's stomach churned as she absorbed the words. The energy wasn't just an object. It was something sentient, something with its own mind, its own will. Whatever had been contained in this bunker was far more dangerous than she had imagined. A sharp noise sounded from behind her, a metallic clink, followed by the low hum of the machines. Olivia turned quickly, the journal still clutched in her hand. The green light from the tank flickered, and for the first time, she could feel the room pulse with an eerie energy. It was alive, and now, it knew she was here. Olivia stood frozen, her eyes locked on the tank in the center of the room. The faint green glow had dimmed, but the hum remained, deep and resonating. She could feel it vibrating through the floor, as if the entire bunker was awakening, responding to her presence. The journal in her hands felt heavier now, as though the weight of its revelations was beginning to sink in. The air around her seemed to thicken, the temperature dropping even further. Olivia's breath formed small clouds in the cold as she cautiously approached the tank. The cracks in the glass had widened slightly, and the strange veins of energy within pulsed faster, almost like a heartbeat. She reached out tentatively, her fingers grazing the surface of the tank. It was cold, unnervingly so. The hum intensified, and for a moment, Olivia swore she saw something move within the murky green liquid. It wasn't just energy, it was something more. Something alive. "Focus," Olivia muttered under her breath, pulling herself back from the tank. She needed answers. This wasn't just about the fire station anymore. It was about the energy, the experiments, and the consequences of what had been left behind. Her flashlight swept across the room, lighting up more strange equipment she hadn't noticed before. There were old computer terminals in the corner, their screens still flickering weakly. Olivia approached one of the terminals, brushing dust off the surface. She pressed a button, and to her surprise, the screen blinked to life. The computer wasn't fully functional, but the faint glow from the screen displayed a series of documents. Olivia squinted at the words. The text, shaky, but legible. They were files detailing more experiments, more tests on the energy source. But the chilling part was the last entry. Subject 231, Awakening. Prepare for containment breach protocol. The words seemed to sear themselves into her brain. Containment breach? What had they done? What had they created? As her mind raced, Olivia's hand brushed the surface of the terminal's keyboard. The screen flickered once more, then suddenly went dark. The room fell silent, save for the echo of her own breath and the relentless hum of the tank. She turned away, heart pounding. The bunker was starting to feel less like an abandoned project and more like a warning. And now, it seemed to be waiting for her next move. Olivia's hand trembled as she held the journal she had found beneath the tank. The pages were brittle, but the ink was still legible. The last entry had been dated just a few days before the project was abruptly shut down. The journal's author had written about the energy source's growing instability, and the fear that it had developed a kind of sentience. Her eyes scanned the first few pages, detailing the initial tests. The scientists had been hopeful, excited by the potential of the energy source. It was unlike anything they'd ever seen: endless power, capable of sustaining entire cities without depleting resources. But as the Forsaken tests progressed, strange things began to happen. Equipment malfunctioned, and energy surges became erratic. But it was the last entry that gave Olivia pause. "It's alive. We can no longer control it. If the containment fails, we will all be at its mercy." Olivia closed the journal slowly, her mind whirling. What had they unleashed here? The thought of the sentient energy, trapped beneath the earth, sent a shiver down her spine. She couldn't imagine what it must have been like to work on something so dangerous, knowing it had the potential to break free at any moment. Suddenly, the hum from the tank grew louder, vibrating the walls of the bunker. Olivia's heart raced as she glanced back at the tank, the greenish glow flickering erratically. She took a cautious step toward it, her breath shallow. It felt like the room was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Her thoughts were interrupted by a loud noise from behind her, like a scraping sound, something moving. Olivia spun around, flashlight in hand, her pulse quickening. The door she had entered through was closed, the heavy metal door now sealed shut. Something wasn't right. She was no longer alone in the bunker. Olivia stood frozen, staring at the man who had suddenly appeared from the shadows. His weathered face seemed familiar, though she couldn't place him. His eyes, sharp and calculating, locked onto hers, the kind of gaze that seemed to know too much. He wore a dark, threadbare jacket, the edges frayed with time. "I could ask you the same thing," the man said, his voice low, almost raspy, like he hadn't spoken to anyone in years. He took a step forward, and the tension in the air grew thick. "Who are you?" Olivia demanded, trying to keep her voice steady, but her heart was hammering in her chest. The man stopped, his expression unreadable. "Name's Elijah. I worked here. A long time ago." Olivia's mind raced. He worked here? Was he part of the original team that built this place? A sense of dread crawled up her spine as she realized that he seemed too familiar with the bunker. "What is this place?" she asked again, her voice quieter now. Elijah's gaze shifted from her to the tank in the center of the room, the faint green glow reflecting in his tired eyes. A heavy silence hung between them. Finally he spoke, his voice strained. "This wasn't supposed to be found. You shouldn't have come." Olivia's pulse quickened. "Why? What's down here?" She gestured around the room, her eyes scanning the strange, outdated machinery and sealed barrels. Elijah's face darkened. "It's not just energy. It's far worse than you think. We tried to control it, but it wasn't meant to be controlled." Before Olivia could ask anything more, Elijah took a step closer, urgency in his tone. "We need to leave. Now. It's awake." Olivia's pulse quickened as Elijah's warning sank in. She looked around the bunker, at the ancient machines, the crates of mysterious materials. The reality of what she was standing in hit her all at once. This wasn't just a forgotten fire station. It was something far darker, something tied to a dangerous past she couldn't yet fully understand. "Why is it awake?" Olivia asked, her voice trembling slightly. "What is it?" Elijah glanced at the tank again, his eyes clouded with fear. "It's the energy source," he muttered. "They were trying to harness it power beyond imagination. But it's not just a power source, it's alive. It feeds on whatever it can. We thought we had it contained, but when the project was shut down, they sealed it away. Only now, it's reacting." Olivia's mind spun. "Alive?" The words echoed in her ears. She had thought of the glowing tank as some kind of dangerous technology, but now she realized it was something far worse, something that might not just be an object, but a conscious entity, and the government had hidden it, here, away from the world. Elijah's face tightened as he rubbed his forehead. "We thought we were doing the right thing. We were trying to save humanity, prepare for whatever was coming. But we didn't realize. We didn't realize it could think." He looked directly at her now, his expression grim. "You've got to get out of here. They locked it away for a reason. And if it's waking up, no one's safe." Olivia stared at the tank again, her chest tightening. The secrets buried in this place were far more dangerous than she could have imagined. And now, she had to make a choice: uncover the truth, or leave before it was too late. Olivia stood frozen, staring at the tank, as Elijah's warning echoed in her ears. "It's awake." The words felt like a death sentence, and her mind spun with the terrifying implications. The energy source alive. She could feel its presence, faint yet undeniable, pulsing beneath the cold glass. "Do you know what happens if it breaks free?" Olivia asked, her voice barely a whisper. Elijah didn't answer immediately. Instead, he moved toward the far side of the room, his footsteps slow and deliberate. "I never wanted you to find this place," he muttered, half to himself. "We were meant to forget about it, forget about everything." He walked to a large metal shelf against the wall and carefully lifted a set of old blueprints. Olivia stepped forward, her curiosity pushing her forward despite the fear gripping her chest. The blueprints were marked with faded, illegible text, but one thing stood out: Containment Protocol, Final Stage. Elijah glanced at her, his expression dark. The project was designed to be a last resort energy source, something that could sustain the world in a time of crisis. But we didn't realize the consequences. He shook his head, as if remembering something terrible. The energy is like a parasite. Once it feeds, it's almost impossible to stop. Olivia looked at the tank. Again. The faint green glow now seemed more sinister. What had they really been creating here? "This energy source," Olivia said slowly. "It was never meant to be used, was it? It was always a weapon." Elijah nodded, his eyes filled with regret. "We thought we could control it. But in the end, it controls everything." The hum of the machinery seemed to grow louder, a low growl that made the walls shudder. Olivia's heart pounded. The bunker was starting to feel less like a relic and more like a tomb. The last piece of the puzzle was falling into place, and the answer was far more terrifying than she could have imagined. The sound of the machines humming louder and the low vibration beneath Olivia's feet made her skin crawl. Something was happening, something that made the bunker feel alive, as if the energy source had been waiting for her. Waiting for them. Elijah paced back and forth, his eyes darting between the tank and the strange equipment scattered throughout the room. His hands trembled slightly, as though he had seen this moment coming but had hoped it would never arrive. Olivia's mind raced. The bunker had been designed to hold the energy source, but something had gone wrong, something catastrophic. "What's going to happen if it escapes?" Olivia asked, her voice tinged with panic. Elijah stopped and turned to face her, his eyes haunted. "It doesn't just power machines, Olivia. It feeds on energy, on life itself. It grows stronger with each moment it's allowed to remain here. If it's not contained, it'll consume everything around it, and eventually, the entire world." A chill ran through Olivia's body, and she swallowed hard. This was worse than she could have imagined. The energy source was more than a power reserve. It was a living, breathing entity, capable of destruction on a global scale. "I didn't sign up for this," Olivia whispered, almost to herself. "I didn't know. I just came here to fix things, to make something of myself." Elijah stepped closer, his face serious. "You found it, and now you're part of it, whether you like it or not." Olivia clenched her fists, trying to steady herself. She couldn't run. The danger was too real, too immediate. She had to make a decision. The bunker had to be sealed before it was too late. She turned back toward the tank, her resolve hardening. "We need to stop it. We need to shut it down. Now." But as she reached for the control panel, the humming from the tank grew louder. It was waking up, and she knew, in that moment, they might already be too late. The room was filled with an eerie quiet, punctuated only by the hum of the tank and the occasional rattle of the machinery. Olivia's breath came in shallow gasps as she turned toward the control panel again, fingers trembling as she scanned the buttons and screens. She had no idea how to operate the equipment in front of her, but one thing was clear: the longer they waited, the closer they came to disaster. Elijah stood behind her, watching intently, his expression grim. He hadn't offered any solution, just a quiet, resigned presence. He knew as well as she did that they were out of their depth. "We can't just stand here," Olivia said, frustration creeping into her voice. "There has to be a way to shut it down." "I told you," Elijah replied, his voice low. "We don't control it. It controls everything." Olivia's eyes flicked to the tank. The green glow had become more pronounced, pulsing steadily, as if it were breathing. The hum was louder now, almost rhythmic. It was a force alive and waking up. She felt it deep in her chest, a growing pressure, like the walls were closing in. She turned back to the control panel, searching for anything that could stop it. The more she scanned the screens, the more she realized how complex the system was. There were no simple switches, no immediate off button. What if we try to overload it? Olivia suggested, half desperate. Send too much power? Make it burn out? Elijah shook his head. That's what we tried. It won't stop. It feeds off the energy. The more we give it, the more it grows. A shiver ran down her spine. The words haunted her. It feeds off energy. She was running out of time. They both were. I don't care what it feeds off, Elijah, Olivia said, a spark of defiance in her voice. We need to make it stop. Now. As if on cue, the humming grew louder, and a soft, crackling sound echoed through the room. Olivia glanced back at the tank, and the sight made her heart stop. The cracks in the glass were spreading. She had no more time to waste. Olivia's heart raced as she stared at the spreading cracks in the glass of the tank. The green glow inside intensified, a steady, pulsing light that seemed to mock her attempts to stop it. The air in the bunker felt thick, charged, as if the very room was holding its breath, waiting for something to happen. Elijah stood motionless behind her, his face pale, his eyes locked on the tank. The weight of the situation pressed down on them both. Do you see what's happening? Olivia asked, her voice tight with panic. It's not just a machine, Elijah. It's alive. Elijah's eyes didn't leave the tank. It's more than alive. It's conscious. And now it's hungry. The words hit Olivia like a punch to the gut. The tank's pulse had quickened, vibrating the floor beneath her feet. The cracks in the glass spread farther, and with each passing second, the noise in the room grew louder. A low growl that seemed to come from the depths of the tank, as if the energy source itself were stirring from a long slumber. We have to stop it, Olivia repeated, her hands shaking as she looked for anything that could help. She ran her fingers over the control panel once again, desperately searching for a shutdown sequence, but there was nothing, just endless, to rows of indecipherable code and symbols. She turned back to Elijah. You've been here before. You must know something. You have to. Elijah looked at her, his face etched with regret. I wish I could tell you there's a way to shut it down, but there's not. Not anymore. Olivia's chest tightened. What do you mean? You were part of this project. You knew what it could do. Elijah swallowed hard. I was one of the original engineers, but when the government shut the project down, we couldn't stop it. We sealed it away and hoped it would die, but it didn't. It grew, fed off whatever it could, and now it's too late. Olivia's mind whirled with the implications. The bunker wasn't just a power station, it was a prison, a containment facility designed for something far worse than she could have imagined. And now, it was breaking free. The humming grew louder, filling her ears. She took one final look at the tank, her stomach twisting in fear. There had to be another way, but time was running out. The hum in the bunker had transformed into a deep, resonating roar that shook the walls, vibrating the very air Olivia breathed. The cracks in the glass of the tank had spread to the point where she could see a faint flickering of light through the cracks, like lightning flashing beneath the surface. She could almost feel the energy raw, untamed, and growing stronger with every passing second. Olivia stepped back, her heart racing. It's going to break out, she whispered. We need to do something. Now. Elijah was motionless, his face pale, eyes wide with fear. There's nothing we can do, he muttered, voice hoarse. We built it to last, but it wasn't meant to be controlled. If it escapes, it won't just destroy this place, it'll spread. What do you mean, spread? Olivia asked, panic rising in her chest. Elijah closed his eyes, as if reliving a painful memory. It's not just energy. It's a living organism, and like any organism, it grows. The more power it consumes, the more it can control. It has the potential to destroy entire cities, maybe even the world. The weight of his words hit Olivia like a punch. The monster in the tank wasn't just a failed experiment. It was something far more dangerous, something alive and hungry for more. She turned back to the tank, the green light now blinding, pulsing violently as if the energy itself was clawing at the glass, desperate to break free. Olivia's mind raced. She couldn't just leave. She couldn't let this thing loose on the world. There has to be another way, she said, more to herself than Elijah. Her fingers brushed over the control panel again, her breath shallow. She found a series of codes, hastily scribbled on a piece of paper stuck to the side of the panel. They were encrypted, but Olivia recognized a few commands she had seen earlier on the computer screens: shutdown sequences, containment protocols. She slammed her hand down on the keyboard, entering the codes frantically. The hum faltered for a brief moment, but then resumed louder than ever. The room shook. "This isn't going to work," Elijah said softly. But Olivia didn't stop. She hit another key. And then another. There was a sudden, deafening silence. Then, the tank cracked open. The moment the tank cracked open, a burst of energy surged through the bunker, bright and blinding. Olivia stumbled backward, her heart pounding in her chest as the green light exploded from the tank, swirling and crackling like an electric storm. The air felt alive, thick with the power of something ancient and dangerous. Elijah grabbed Olivia's arm, pulling her away from the tank as the energy swirled around them. "We have to move. It's too late to stop it now." But Olivia didn't move. She couldn't tear her eyes away from the swirling mass of energy in the tank. It wasn't just light, it was something alive, something with a mind of its own, shifting and pulsing as it broke free. The crack in the glass grew wider, and the hum of the machinery intensified. "Elijah, we can't let it escape," Olivia said, her voice shaking, but determined. "There has to be a way to contain it." "We've tried everything," Elijah replied, his face pale with fear. "It's feeding now. It's only going to get stronger, if it gets loose." "I know," she interrupted, her mind racing. They didn't have time for excuses, for more warnings. Olivia knew what needed to be done, and she hated it. But she couldn't let the world fall victim to this creature, this living energy source. There was only one way to stop it from spreading, from causing destruction beyond their wildest fears. "I'll stay," Olivia said, her voice steady, though every part of her screamed to run. "I'll initiate the lockdown. You need to go now. Get out of here and warn people. Tell them everything." Elijah's eyes widened. "No, you can't. You won't survive down here." But Olivia shook her head, a grim smile touching her lips. "If I don't do this, we won't have a chance to survive. The only way to stop it is to sever its connection to the power, cut off its feeding source completely." Elijah reached for her, but she pulled away, her gaze hardening with determination. "Go. Now." Reluctantly, Elijah hesitated before turning toward the exit. The energy inside the tank exploded in a burst of light, and for a moment, Olivia couldn't see anything. She heard Elijah's voice, faint but urgent, calling her name, but it was too late. The decision was made. She activated the final command. The bunker was silent now, save for the low hum of machinery, a sound that had once been so ominous but now felt strangely peaceful. Olivia stood in the center of the containment chamber, her breath shallow, her heart racing. She had done it. She had initiated the lockdown, and the energy source, the creature, was finally contained. The green glow from the tank had faded to a dim flicker, and the pulsing vibrations that had rumbled through the floor had quieted. The air was still and cold, the oppressive weight of the moment settling over her. She had been prepared to sacrifice herself to stop it, but the final command had worked, at least for now. The energy was trapped inside the bunker, its feeding source severed, isolated from the outside world. Olivia's fingers trembled as she wiped sweat from her brow. The weight of the decision hung heavy on her shoulders. It wasn't victory she felt, but relief. Relief that the world was safe, at least for now. The world outside didn't know the terror that had nearly been unleashed, and it was better that way. She would be the only one who knew, the only one who could tell the story of what had happened here. The metallic walls of the bunker felt cold and sterile, but Olivia could almost hear the echoes of the past in the silence. This place had been built with such ambition, with the hope of providing unlimited power, but it had been doomed from the start. They hadn't understood the creature they were dealing with, and when they tried to control it, they had only set the stage for their own downfall. Now, that same ambition had almost destroyed everything, and in the end, it was a mechanic, not a scientist, who had sealed its fate. She closed her eyes, taking in a deep breath. For a moment, she let herself feel the weight of the loss of innocence, the loss of purpose. Elijah had left, his face drawn and pale, to warn the world about the project, to tell them what had almost happened. But Olivia knew the truth. Project Eclipse wasn't over. The bunker, the creature, the technology, none of it would be forgotten. The government would eventually come for it. They always did. But the bunker, the facility, was locked down now. Olivia had made sure of that. She had ensured the safety of the world, even if it meant standing alone. The world would never know the full truth, and that, in some ways, was for the best. She didn't want the world to have the power they had tried to harness here. The price was too great. Olivia turned away from the containment chamber, her footsteps echoing in the now empty room. She had made her choice, and she would live with it. She didn't know what the future held, but she knew one thing. The bunker's legacy was not hers to carry alone. It was a story, a warning, that would live on through her actions. The decisions she had made had saved lives, but the consequences would ripple out in ways she couldn't yet comprehend. Stepping toward the exit, she paused at the heavy metal door. She looked back one last time at the containment chamber, the walls that had held back the creature that almost destroyed them all. The bunker's secrets were buried now, but Olivia knew that somewhere, deep down, they were always watching, waiting, and she would be ready. As she stepped back into the light, the door ceiling shut behind her. Olivia felt a strange sense of finality. The sun was setting, casting long shadows over the fire station. Her work wasn't done, not by a long shot. The world would continue, and she would be there to face whatever came next. Because this was her legacy now, not just as a mechanic, but as the guardian of a secret that no one else would ever know. The end of one chapter, but the beginning of another. The world was still out there, and Olivia was ready for whatever it held.